Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated to providing you with life strategies with a little bit of entrepreneur advice. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Networking with Michelle. I am your host, Michelle Gomez. This is actually a special episode as I have with me today Mr. John Clark, who is running for Harris County Judge of the 337th Criminal District Court. Obviously, I'm in Houston, Texas, so that's Harris County. So, Mr. Clark, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me on the show, Michelle. I'm doing well.
Thanks for being here. So why don't you give everyone a little background information?
Yes, my name is John Clark. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing criminal law for 36 years. I initially grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I came to Texas to go to law school in 1979. I graduated in 82, started practicing, opened my own shop, and that's pretty much my background. I am married, and I have one son I'm very proud of, who's a graduate at Thurgood Marshall School of Law, and he is a practicing attorney, and I attend Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. I participated in the Boy Scouts with them, but right now I'm really happy at just being a Pew Baptist right now.
So you've made Houston home. You're very involved in the community.
Yes, it's been my home. In my younger days, I participated in a number of I was one of the worker bees, always the worker bees. And I helped Sheila Jackson Lee, Anthony Hall, Craig Washington, and I was always out there passing pamphlets or carrying a baby. So my son was young and he would be with me, and I would give the candidates my son so, they can kiss the baby and hold the baby. So now I'm running my own campaign.
Okay. What kind of law have you practiced? Have you always been in the political space?
Not in the political space. The law that I practiced is criminal law. I did some banking back in the 80s and the 90s when the banks failed and the savings and loans failed. I did a lot of banking and some of the savings and loans. I enjoy banking, love banking. However, the firm was not set up at that time. We were having a breakup, and it's just like a bad divorce. And I didn't feel comfortable continuing the banking business if I couldn't do it properly. So I fell back on criminal law.
I understand that. So obviously it's 2020. This is a big presidential election year, which a lot of the attention goes to that. But here you are running for district court. So can you go ahead and tell people a little bit about district court?
Yes. It is one of the most important courts that, besides the municipal court, that touches mostly. And it's the criminal court. And, we have family members, loved ones that could either be victims or they could be defendants in that court. And it controls whether that person is going to prison or on probation, or if that victim is going to be compensated, through justification of someone being punished or input. It's a very important court. And what we have to do this on March 3rd is make sure that we go from we go through all the way through the ballot to vote. If we don't get through the ballot, you don't get to your local races. And that's what's going to be important. I've been telling people, start from the bottom and work your way up, because our local judicial races are so important to make sure that we get competent individuals in those positions. And that is my biggest message to everyone.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, there's no longer a straight ticket ballot anymore. So that's why Mr. Clark is saying you have to read the ballot, preferably from the bottom up in this case, in order for you to touch the local elections, right?
That's correct.
So once again, this is a primary election on March 3rd, but it's so important. You cannot just click on DRI and be done. You have to read everything. And if you don't go to the bottom, your local elections, your local community will be affected. And I'm going to be sure to include some literature, some links in order for you to read about that. But if you don't know, we are no longer doing a straight ticket ballot. This is so crucial. I mean, I don't know. Can you add anything?
And you're right. And it's going to be major. But in the primary, there would not, in a primary, we would never have the straight ticket anyway. I mean, it's all Democrats or all Republicans, depending. And I'm in the Democratic Party. And so that you're going to have to go through each one of those individuals and make a decision. What the problem in the primary is that we will have people that will concentrate on the presidential race or the U.S. Senate race, and then they'll call it a day. But it's still very important that the railroad commissioner that is on the ballot, the fact that the judicial, civil, and family and criminal court judges are there. And it is important, it is imperative that you get to those judges so that you get competent people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so you gave us a great breakdown of the importance of the district court. Can you elaborate why this may be important for African Americans and people of color when it comes to the criminal court?
It is, Michelle, I get that question a lot, and I'm going to answer it this way. It is important to everyone because we have to take the position that our judges should be fair and impartial and independent, and they should be treating every citizen regardless of their gender or their color or their sexual preference or orientation. They should be treating them fairly. What we need to make sure we have on the bench is people that are willing, that they have a reputation for being tolerant and aware of the issues and comfortable with those cultures so that they can treat people fairly and make good decisions. So I understand how it impacts a lot of minorities, brown and black people are in the criminal court system, but basically there's brown, black, white, and everyone's there. And I think it's more important for that judge to make sure that everyone is being treated fairly, whether it's the litigants or the litigants, the lawyers, and the victims. Everybody needs to be treated fairly with that sort of, and I don't know if it's really true that blind-eyed, for justice,
Yeah. I work with, I have a good friend, Marvin Pierre. He's over the 8 Million Stories where they focus on breaking the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
So how does that affect your role as well? Or I guess once you are elected judge?
Michelle, another interesting question. I had that question asked to me by the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats. And I thought about it for a second as a judge. I wish I could give you something fancy and take you down a road where we can say, let's get behind that. It's just out of my lane. I recognize the pipeline. My wife is a school teacher, and she told me about a 10-year-old boy that stabbed his mother in the arm. And then he's no longer with mom, but he's living with grandma. And then he was suspended from school for fighting, and he was in a park doing an aggravated robbery. He's 10 years old. He was with some older people carrying a gun. Now, there are people out there doing statistics, and they can tell you that Johnny B is one of those people that is not making, let's make a bed for him in 2030. Yeah. That's that pipeline.
Yeah.
That's that pipeline. I think that what we have to do as a people is we have to educate these kids. The middle class individuals that have made it, we got to go back. We got to reach back into the community, do some mentoring, teaching, making sure these kids are reading, exposing them to different cultures. So we're breaking that pipeline. Judicially, I can't do anything about it. It's too late from a judicial standpoint.
That's honest.
Yes. That's honest. It's too late from a judicial standpoint.
So while you're in office, what can people expect from you?
They can expect a hard worker. They can expect someone that will be on the bench with integrity. They can expect that I will be independent. I will not be influenced by what's the hot political issue. I will not be swayed if the police chief is saying that people shouldn't get bonds or the bond should be X amount. I will look at each individual case. I will make an intelligent decision to protect the presumption of innocence which is a constitutional right we all have. And then we also balance that with public safety. So I won't be pushed around. I've reached 66. I got some of, hopefully my bedside manner is not a complete grouch, but I do feel like I won't be pushed, and I'll do the right thing no matter what.
I mean, you've had a great career.
Yes.
Professionally, community, family. Why now? Why run for office now, and why should people vote for you?
One of the reasons that I've sort of mapped out my life, I was one of those guys that said, you're supposed to be out of college at 20. You're supposed to be married at 22. You're supposed to have all this. And of course, we all know that sometimes that just doesn't quite work out. But my part of the big picture has been that when I practice law, and I've been practicing law 36 years, I figured the first 10 years of my life, you're learning the law and you're learning how to practice law. You're not really, in my opinion, you're not really a lawyer until you got 10 years under your belt. And you have to learn. It's just a lot of things you have to learn and take in. And then the second decade, I saw in my life, make as much money as you can. Make as much money in that part. You're in your 40s and your 50s. Good time, make the money. And then in the third part, I think it's time for me, and I'm in that third decade where it is time to give back. It is time to get back to the legal profession. It's time to get back to the community. The wisdom and knowledge that you have, I want to give it back. As serving on the judge, I really want to do this. I don't have an agenda anymore. You get to a point, in this point in your life, you say, my house is paid for, my son is out of college, and you pass that student debt to him. So you're kind of like, you are prepared to give back. And I really do. I want to be on the bench and provide as much guidance and as much fairness as I can possibly do some good. I'd also like to teach at a law school, do some class, give it back that way. Yeah. It's just time. It is time for me to do this.
Okay. Before we wrap up, can you tell us, I just want to put emphasis on certain things.
Okay.
What's the process? Because obviously you're in campaign mode right now.
Right.
You already mentioned voting's on March 3rd, but what's the process and who can vote for you?
Anyone in Harris County can vote for me. Anyone that is not an American citizen that is registered to vote and does not have it and is not impaired as a result of having a felony can vote. The process right now that I'm in is, of course, just trying to get my name out. Now, I'm going to say something else a lot of people may get angry about, but I'm going to be extremely honest with you. If we had our druthers, there would not be an election for judges. It is not a political position. It is not a position that should have an R or a D associated with it. But that's what we have, so that's what we have to do. I think that what I'm doing now is getting my name out there and trying to let people know who I am and what I'm about, so that they'll feel comfortable enough to feel assured. And what you're doing here on this program, people are listening and they'll feel comfortable with your reputation of getting information to them. And maybe they'll be assured that John Clark is a good guy to have on the bench and look over the county's affairs on the criminal district bench.
How can people get involved with your campaign?
Please get involved. I have a website. I have a telephone number. Hopefully, Michelle, I don't know how that all works, and it'll get out. That I need volunteers. I need people to help me cover the polls. My strategy is to in the early voting, and the early voting starts. I should say that too. It's February 18th, and it runs for a week, and then at the end of that time period, on March 3rd, the regular voting starts. But my strategy, I should say, has to be to get out at the polls and get people to push my name out there as much as possible at the early voting. So there will be 50 early voting locations, and my agenda is to get as many people there as possible at those polling places.
Yeah, so I will definitely have the links in the show notes. The website is johnclarkforjustice.net, johnclarkforjustice.net, but I'll also have that provided in the show notes. So once again, early voting starts February 18th, and the election day is on March 3rd. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
No, I would just like to thank you, Michelle. Really,
Absolutely.
This is important for young people to participate in the process. And I know there's a lot of different ways to do it. And what you're doing is very important. And I appreciate you educating the public and make sure that we get competent and fair judges on the bench.
Yes, this is something, I'm not a politician, but I understand the importance of it. So this is something that's important to me, and spreading the word behind it. So I'm also grateful for your time and for your opportunity. So once again, everyone, especially if you are in Harris County, please look up the website johnclarkforjustice.net. Get behind Mr. Clarks. Support his campaign. If you need anything, please reach out to me. I will be glad to put you in contact with him and his team. Remember, a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.